please make a video about Vanguard Zero and its Perfect Guard Sentinels. You got it, my friend. Let's cue in that intro. Woo! Outer Orange. Alright, Vanguard people, you know what time it is? It is time to discuss Perfect Guard Sentinels, and I got my Christmas socks on. Oh yeah, we're Christmasing it up today. That's right, everybody. We're going to talk about two things today. We're going to talk about Perfect Guard Sentinels, and how can you abuse them pretty much, and we're also going to discuss like how they work and how they help the game and all that fun stuff. So we're going to go into it here. We're also going to talk about some clans that abuse PG Sentinels against you too. So let's go on into it. Let's discuss them. Pretty much going into it, we're just going to start off with like how Perfect Guard started, how they're abused, and how people have used them to kind of deal with like certain situations. And we're going to just start off pretty much at the beginning of the Vanguard Zero like game, which is the four main clans that came out right when Vanguard Zero started, which is OTT, Kagero, Nova Grappler, and Royal Paladins. And of those four clans that started out, there were two that were really manipulating pretty much the concept of Perfect Guards. I'll start with Kagero first. So Kagero was pretty much the first deck that came out with this nice little starter here, which says Counterblast 1, retire this unit to add a grade 1 or less to your hand. And specifically the to your hand part that kind of makes it strong, because guess what? Perfect Guards are a grade 1 or less. So you can literally just take this and put it into your hand, and guess what? You now have a Perfect Guard. And there's a reason why Kagero was dominating so well when the first four clans came out, because of the first four clans, this is the main clan that can literally just get a Perfect Guard for free. And it's nice because you just go on in with your Perfect Guard, start attacking for high numbers, and you know, you don't die as often. But there is a clan that can stop this, and that is OTT. So back when Vanguard first started, OTT has a card called Silent Tom. Let me find it because I actually don't own it, so it's black, it's darkened. So here it is. Here's Silent Tom, and Silent Tom states, during the battle, this unit attacked your opponent's Sentinel does not activate. So this literally is kind of like almost a counter to like stuff like Kagero, because you can literally just be like, oh, you have 4 Perfect Guards in hand? Well, that sucks for you because this thing just hit and I hope you heal. And unless you do heal, it's actually really hard to go around this card. The only downside is this card is an 8k. So if the opponent is trying to hit with this, they sure as heck better have a booster with this or else it's not going to hit. But aside from that, this card literally manipulates Perfect Guards. And that's just crazy that there's like all this like stuff with it, but there's more. So this was like the very first set that came out that had like this Perfect Guard ways to put it to your hand, and then also ways to manipulate it. But we continuing onward, Spike Brothers had their clan event, and they also got access to Perfect Guard manipulation. Let me find them. So Perfect Guard, so Spike Brothers has a way of manipulating Perfect Guards with their starter as well. It also says Counterblast 1, retire this unit, add a grade 1 or less from your deck to hand, and boom, guess what? You got yourself a Perfect Guard. You know, it's crazy that like they put this type of skill into Spike Brothers as well, because Spike Brothers is a very aggressive deck, and having the Perfect Guards is super nice in case you start falling behind against other aggressive decks. You can just Perfect Guard your way out and you are safe, and it's awesome and it's great. Going in, once Spike Brothers pretty much came out, we had one more clan before things started changing where Perfect Guard started getting manipulated, and that is no other than Aquaforce. Aquaforce, part of why it's dominating is because of its Perfect Guard manipulation and abuse. So going on into this deck, we're going to find this card here in a second. It's a Maelstrom card. It's a grade 3. And here it is. So our Maelstrom states, when this unit attacks a Vanguard, Counterblast 2, get 5k, an extra crit, and until the end of that battle, if you have your opponent discard a grade 3 at random to get their Sentinel to activate during the battle. If they do not discard, the Sentinel does not activate. So this is actually like a really good card. There's probably a reason why Aquaforce has been dominating for so long is because this card exists. So as we all know, we run 4 Perfect Guards in every deck. It's hard not to because it's literally a savior. You can not die because you have Perfect Guards, right? But then you have this guy that says, I don't really care. discard your right target or else you lose. And keep in mind, this does have an extra crit on and everything. So on top of the fact that it's denying your Sentinel, it's also attacking you for 2 damage. And this is part of the reason why Perfect Guards are just, so crazy in this. Going on into Perfect Guards, and don't worry, I'll talk about the differences in Perfect Guards as well, because there are 2 different types now. We'll get into that. First, I want to talk about decks that manipulate Perfect Guards, and then we can get into like how they all work and how you can manipulate how you face people with Perfect Guards as well. So the next, pretty much, I guess, 3 clans, I should say, that got more Perfect Guard manipulation is, we'll start with Angel Feather. Let me find Angel Feather, and I'll go from there. So Angel Feather is a clan that pretty much, this is completely different manipulation from what we've seen so far. So far, we've seen a starter manipulation. We've seen abuse where you don't let it activate, but we haven't seen much else, right? Well, Angel Feather is the first clan that pretty much comes out where you can take your cards from your damage zone and bring them back to hand. So if you're in a situation where you're like, oh wow, I have 3 PGs in my damage zone, I'm not seeing Perfect Guards. Well, guess what? Angel Feather does not care about that, because they have cards like this that exist. It says, when placed, you may put a card from your hand into your damage zone, and if you do, add a card from your damage zone to your hand. So in case a Perfect Guard just goes flying right into your damage zone, guess what? You can pick it right back up, and now you have a Perfect Guard. And Angel Feather is a good clan that can abuse this. This is both in this game and even in the real game, like, because you can grab anything from damage zone, you can abuse it pretty nicely. Hopefully Grand Blue will see this soon, because they manipulate their drop zone versus their damage zone. But really, really amazing stuff right here. Another way to abuse the idea of having Perfect Guards into your hand. Of course, stuff like Aqua Force and Silent Tom stop stuff like this, but you still have that abuse towards other clans where you can use this. There's actually 2 more clans that have added their pool of cards that actually still abuse ways to get Sentinels into your hand. And the first one I'll talk about is actually OTT. I gotta find it. Give me a sec here. Okay. So OTT recently got some new support. It's called the Manga support. And some cards that can manipulate getting Perfect Guards is this card right here. So Stellar Manga says, when this unit attacks, counterblast 1 to declare card name and reveal the top card of your deck. If the card is the card declared, add it to hand, and if not, then you countercharge. So this card, if you declare a Perfect Guard, and the top card is a Perfect Guard, guess what? You're getting a Perfect Guard coming right to your hand. So this deck can actually manipulate Perfect Guards. But there's another one, and it's actually kind of a little bit more of a known, but in the same wave of support that Mangas came out, which is pretty much this set in this month, there's also Bermuda Triangle. Of all decks, a lot of people don't know that you can actually get Perfect Guards to your hand in this deck too. So if you run the Pacifica engine, you have ways of getting your Perfect Guards. I'm gonna go to confirm. But as some of you may know, Bermuda Triangle right now is all about putting stuff to the board, bouncing it back just to put it all back again, right? So you can actually get a PGs to your board and put it back to hand by using 3 cards, essentially. You use this card, and then you use this card, and you use her friend this card. So the way you do it is you pretty much ride this on top of your other girl. And her skill says, when your rear guard is returned, you may call a card from your deck. And her skill says, when a rear guard is returned, you may call 1 or less cards from your hand. So if you use both the skills at the same time, what you can do is you can pretty much take this. Your first skill, you can call it a Perfect Guard from deck to board. And then you can use the other skill to call this card from deck to board, and you can counterblast and return your Sentinel, and thus you have a Sentinel in your hand. And this can actually also save you games. A lot of people don't know that this is a thing, but Bermuda Triangle can also get Perfect Guards from your deck to the board back to your hand, which is another way to manipulate bouncing and bouncing back Perfect Guards. On top of the fact that you also have stuff like Coral. So in Coral, you can pretty much put down Perfect Guards, boost with them, and then bring it back to hand based off of Coral skills. Another way to manipulate Perfect Guards. That's pretty much the least, as far as I know, that's what all the clans can do in terms of getting Perfect Guards from the board or from deck or from damage back to hand. But there's also other ways to manipulate Perfect Guards in a sense of drawing to get to them. So one of the main clans that do it, I don't have all the cards and I don't know like everything that the clan does, but Shadow Paladins is really big into drawing into your pieces. So currently the deck is all about drawing through as quickly as possible, and I'm talking about strictly Shadow Paladins. I'm not talking about Shadow and Gold combinations. This is strictly like Shadow decks. Shadows was dominating for a little bit just because you can draw so fast and you can get to your perfect guard so quickly by discarding, do a lot of stuff, and by getting to all your pieces you can literally just throw up a board, have 4 PGs in hand, and not die. They manipulated this quite nicely, and also Coral, again going back to Coral, is another deck that does a similar mechanic. So you have all these ways to draw with all these different corals right here, as we see. And what you pretty much do is you draw through as fast as you can to get to your perfect guards as quickly as possible. And this is really nice because this deck was like low-key doing well because it survives late game. Your opponents can do a lot of stuff and you just don't care because you have all the cards in your hand, you got all this value, you got all these PGs that you just don't care. And the deck is slow, but it's able to deal with perfect guards pretty nicely. I mean, it's able to pick up perfect guards to then deal with heavy attacks or counter or crits or whatever. Now, going on to some other things about perfect guards. So as we all know, there's actually now 2 different perfect guards, and let's talk about them real quick. So the first perfect guard is this one, which is just when the Vanguard is hit, activation conditions are met, perfect guard is activated. So pretty much what it means is if you're taking very lethal damage, like if you're at 3 and your opponent is hitting you for 2, this will activate. And pretty much it's like super lethal. Anything past like 1 damage, it just instantly activates. Whereas we actually have another one that's a little bit different. And going on to a similar thing, this one says when the Vanguard is hit and you lose if you do not guard, perfect guard is activated. So this one works a little bit differently. You can be at 2 damage, your opponent can crit you for 3, and you will go all the way to 5. This one will not activate until you're pretty much at the end. Whereas the other one, if that were the case, it would activate. And what's really nice about these is manipulation again. So there are some decks that do really high critting. And because of that, like stuff like MOB exists. So pretty much what happens is that when MOB is doing its thing, he can keep you at 3 damage the entire time, and you're going to keep wasting these perfect guards, and then he'll just kill you. That is one way to kind of like abuse and manipulate perfect guards. Whereas if you play the other perfect guard, they can put you to 5, and then you can start doing stuff at 5. And the reason why I'm talking about this is because right now we're in Limit Break era, and Limit Break says you can pretty much do stuff when you're at 4 or 5 damage, and you can't do stuff if you're not at 4 or 5 damage. Well, this perfect guard kind of forces you to be in a tough situation where you're constantly at 3, whereas the other one can put you to 5, and then you can just kind of start doing stuff. And some decks will manipulate with this, with their crits. So some decks right now, there's a lot of big like crit decks, like Jewel Knights, which is Royal Paladins, crits. Ezreal's all crit, though they're kind of starting to die off. OTT with the Magus do crit. Trying to think of what else. There's a bunch of decks that crit. Narukami decks crit, and they crit high as well, especially Gauntlet Buster. They go to 4 to 5 crits pretty easily if they can retire a lot. But there's all these decks that crit right now. MOB crits, but MOB is not very popular at the moment, at least right now in current meta. But there's all these ways that people crit, and you can either avoid getting those crits by running this perfect guard, or you can take all the crits to get you to 5 with the other perfect guard, and knowing how to manipulate that and being able to use all that stuff is actually like super cool. And yeah, we're pretty much up to 10, set 10 right now. As far as I know, there aren't any other decks that can manipulate perfect guards. This is pretty much the main thing. I really want to just discuss like how to abuse perfect cards and the things that you can do and how you can get them to your hand and how they progress to decks. Because as we know, Kagero, Spikes, Aquaforce, I'm trying to think what else is dominating. Kagero, Spikes, Aquaforce, OTT too, because OTT with Tsukiyomi has actually still been topping. I don't know if they're topping like currently, but they've still been considered a competitive meta deck just because of how you can stack. You can literally prepare your perfect guards so you can draw into them, or prepare your heals so you can heal. Like you can kind of like figure out how to do it, and that's another way of pretty much manipulation. On top of the fact that Silent Tom exists, you put that thing down, and your opponent has to heal to win. So, and healing to win is really hard to do. It's possible because there's only 40 cards, and you have a 1/10 chance to do it. But it doesn't change the fact that you can just not get a single heal and just lose to it. And that's why Silent Tom manipulation and like Aquaforce manipulation is so strong, because it just literally forces opponents, which is everybody who has perfect guards, to not be able to perfect guard. But yeah, so I thought this would be a really fun and interesting video to do, just literally talk about perfect guards and how perfect guards work in decks and Vanguard Zero overall. But anyway guys, that's it for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Thank you to the person who gave me the idea of talking about something like this. It's just one of the few interesting mechanics of Vanguard Zero, what makes Vanguard Zero just so entertaining and so fun. I hope this was good for you. If you liked it, if you liked this video, please give it a like, a share, all that cool stuff, because, you know, I love making stuff like this and I love helping people out and helping them understand the game more. So feel free to comment, question, whatever you want to do to pretty much just, you know, keep these type of videos going. So yeah, anyway guys, thank you for watching. Peace out. If you want to know more, feel free to talk to me on my Twitter, because I do a lot of stuff on there as well. So anyway guys, other than that, peace out. Do свидания. Till next time. Bye.